There are an abundance of camels in Australia, but do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? Let's watch this video to find out and help us make our minds up.
In the middle of Western Australia, father and son Tim and Jack Carmody have a grim task ahead of them.
What we've got is Dad just trying to bring...
As another warning, same as the rabbit video, life is being lost. And so if you're sensitive to things like that, skip.
Down with the plane and push them out into an open area, because in the mulga it gets a little bit harder to get to them.
Culling camels is part of daily life on this 405,000 hectare property, Prenty Station.
It started out in regular sort of mobs that I'd be expecting in summer, 13s, 14s, the occasional 35. But what I came across next just completely and utterly threw me. I went from seeing 35 to suddenly it was over 100 of them. 2.
I understand why humans do this, and it's a touchy subject. It's a difficult subject. And I understand why humans do it, because the population and what they're finding is that the camels are coming more into farmland, you know, eating crops and things like that. But there's got to be a better way than just killing them and leaving them, you know, as carcasses. It just baffles me.
It was an overnight change where one day I was thinking I'll get close to the 100, and I'd ended up shooting 180 of them, and I proceeded to go up and up until I peaked out at 435 in a day, which is just some heavy and hard work.
Camels were introduced to Australia in the 1840s to help the early explorers open up the vast interior. By the turn of the 20th century, as many as 20,000 Arabian camels had been transported here. They're dromedaries, meaning they have just one hump. Around 2,000 handlers or cameleers also migrated. When trucks took over, camels were set free, and Australia now supports the largest wild population of dromedaries in the world.
I find that fact so amazing and fascinating, because before I learnt about Australia, I would not have known there was a single camel in Australia. It's just not the country that you associate. And it makes complete sense. It makes complete sense why there would have been camels, or at least camels put there for the work that was needed in the dry, arid deserts of the bush and the outback and whatnot. But the fact that there are the most of this species of camels is incredible.
Over the last few years, they've become basically plague proportions in the whole Central Australia.
There's estimated to be 1.2 million feral camels, with their numbers doubling every decade. They cause about $10 million damage each year to native vegetation, infrastructure and waterways.
Definitely in the last 12, 18 months here, you know, we've just absolutely been hammered by them. And I think you can put that all down to the dry. I've never seen such poor, emaciated, you know, starving, perishing camels in my whole life.
And these ships of the desert have a phenomenal capacity to drain water destined for cattle.
Yeah, a camel, when it's thirsty, will be able to drink 100 litres, 200 litres. They'll just power through it, and that'll be a few minutes.
It's hardly. This is the same point I make about the rabbits. It's not their fault, is it? You know, that's just them in nature. It's not their fault that they're causing this damage. They're just trying to survive.
At Carnegie Station, manager Brendan Carew is also dealing with invading camels from the adjoining desert.
So we've just pulled up our solar pump, and we're going to lower down a sub pump for the night just to catch up a bit of water here, because camels have been drinking the tank dry at the trough down there.
He's had to constantly check the main watering points and install backup systems to try to replace water the camels have drained. It's another burden in caring for cattle already struggling with the driest summer on record.
They'll come to the trough and they'll push the cattle away from the trough and they'll surround it, not let the cattle in, and just steal all the water for themselves. Because they're such a big animal, they drink so much water, and if they drink a trough dry, then they just smash it to pieces trying to find more water.
These large, thirsty browsers don't just cause problems on pastoral land.
We had big mob of camel and they wrecked my friend.
Aboriginal communities have a love-hate relationship with the often overly friendly ferals, which damage sites of cultural significance and have little regard for property.
But why would they? I don't think any animal has any regard to property. That's a human thing, right? To have property. Now, don't get me wrong, I completely understand what people are saying. You know, these camels, they are invasive. That, you know, they don't think like us. You know, they go where they want. They drink the water that they need. They eat what they need. And that's not their fault. So I do see both sides.
At times there can be up to 300 to 400 camels just walking into town. It's quite surreal.
There's too many camels in this community, in this Peterman area. Too many. We need to stop all them camels coming in.
In January this year, in South Australia's APY Indigenous lands, more than 3,000 were shot from the air in a major camel crackdown. There's long been talk of turning these carcasses into a commodity.
Exactly what I was thinking. And as it says in the title, culls and carcasses, or milk and meat. Now, if you've got all these, let's not just shoot them and leave them for being carcasses. Why don't you use the milk, use the meat? I'm pretty sure camel meat's meant to be quite good for you, I think. No, so if, for example, they're coming in and taking up the cow's water, well, why don't you welcome those cows in and use it as a source of production of meat and milk? That seems to make more sense, at least. And, you know, for these farmers, it's free animals, right? You're not paying for new cows or anything. Now, whether I'm right or wrong, I don't know, but this makes more sense for humans anyway, not for the camels, obviously.
But commercialisation is difficult and hasn't gained much traction.
I would definitely love to see commercialisation. I think just shooting anything or destroying anything and leaving it to rot is just wasteful. You know, everything should be treated as a resource. But having said that, in the absence of a market that's of scale, you know, that can actually deal with the numbers we're talking about, the immediate option is an aerial culling program.
That's interesting, actually, because I know over here in the UK there wouldn't be any market, of the tiniest of tiniest markets for camel meat. Now, whether or not you have a market over there, you eat different things. You eat crocodile and kangaroo and everything over there. So, you know, maybe there is a market, but maybe not enough of a market to be using all of the bodies as meat.
In the last 5 years, I would have had well over 1,000 separate inquiries from 50 plus countries looking for everything from meat's the main one. Meat's 90% of the inquiries, but then you go into live export, you go into wool, you go into milk, you go into the hump fat, and all those sorts of things come from that. So there's numerous aspects of the camel and numerous countries that want camel meat.
Former camel catcher Paddy McHugh is all for a new industry. He travels regularly to the Middle East and is a camel broker of sorts.
We have a problem with camels in Australia. I'm not denying that, but shooting it will never work. You will never shoot the problem away. The only way to fix the problem, the only way, is to commercialise the industry.
Even if domestic and international markets were secured, camels would probably need to be farmed to ensure consistency of quality and supply.
A lot of the camels occur in very remote areas where there's no infrastructure, which is needed for them to be mustered and put on trucks and sent off to abattoirs and so on. So that is a major constraint.
You say that, but we've recently looked at a video about how, we know that Australia is a big miner of coal. Australia is a rich country. We now got the mining of lithium that Australia have got a huge, vast amount of, which is going to make them a lot of money. Now, you can look at it in this way that you set up these farms and whatnot. Well, you're going to be making that money back, right? You're going to be making that money back. You've got to invest to make money.
Also, the remoteness of the sites means that the transport costs are high. Now, camels can only be single-decked on trucks, so straight away the cost of transport is double that you would have for cattle.
The Western Australian Government is looking at the viability of a camel abattoir at Kalgoorlie. Mobile abattoirs are another option.
Mobile abattoirs or central accumulation points would be a pretty good step towards making the camel marketable and lowering our transport costs.
They have to go in there with an overarching plan, build abattoirs, do some sort of culls, wild harvest, educate the masses, educate the farmers, educate the Aboriginal people on what to do. The industry is screaming out for this to happen.
There is another option too, camel milk.
Right, I've always thought this. Isn't it weird that we drink other animals' milks, mainly cows, but we don't drink our own mother's milk anymore? I just find it really odd that we will happily drink another animal parent's milk. It's a weird thing, isn't it? It's really, really weird, I think.
People's first perception is, camel's milk, because it's so foreign to them. And then by the time they have their little taste, they go, oh, it tastes just like cow's milk, slightly salter aftertaste.
There are several camel dairies from Queensland down to Victoria, and they've all based their milking herds on feral camels that have been caught from the wild.
Wow.
And trained to cope with handling.
We had one camel where we could have her in a race and touching and everything within a week. Like, she was fine to be able to even touch the udder and start stimulating the udder within a week, where another camel, we've been working on her for about three months now.
But at least it shows that it's doable. You've got a free resource of wild camels that you can farm for milk, for meat, and they can be trained to accept the sort of the touching and physical contact from humans. So you've got a ready available source.
The Bedouins have long believed in the healing power of camel milk, with its low lactose and low cholesterol. But with the industry here in its infancy, producers are learning as they go.
It's the agony and the ecstasy. So it is just when you think you're trucking along really well, you'll get a curveball.
Each animal only produces 5 to 6 litres a day, considerably less than dairy cows. And without the usual structures in place to transport and market the milk, the shelf price is more than $20 a litre, in line with the cost internationally.
But it's at that price, and this is the same with all new things, right? And it's not that it's a new thing, but when it gets mass produced, the price goes down. It's the same with electric cars and whatever technology, anything new, until it gets taken up by the masses, it's going to be a high cost. It needs to be mass produced to bring the costs down.
In Dubai, for instance, where labour is low cost, retail prices are around about $15 Australian per litre. And in the US, where demand is strong and supply is short, retail prices are about $30 a litre.
Some producers are drying the milk into a powder so it has a longer shelf life and can be exported. Others are turning it into cheese and yoghurt and even skincare.
Yoghurt.
In a land like Australia, we've got this animal that can survive, through pretty well anything, the worst things that our Mother Nature can throw at it, and we're shooting it. So, and yet it produces meat, it produces milk, it produces fat products for other stuff, hide, leather. So it's an amazing animal.
Well, there you go. What do you think? I would certainly be on the side of, I know it's neither is great for the camel, but it's a wasted resource, isn't it, really? It's a wasted resource if you're just going around shooting these animals and leaving them for the environment. If we're looking at things to make life easier for humans, then it's a ready available source that humans can take advantage of. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I will catch you next time.